topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Churchill said, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." Kevin Hallinan believes that certainly applies to business. Welcome to Winning Business Radio, here at W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. And now, your host, Kevin Hallinan.
To Winning Business Radio. I'm your host, Kevin Hallinan. This is kind of going to be fun. Let me read you an intro, and then I'll give you a special, tell you what's going on today. Slide this around here. So welcome back. As I said, the mission of this show, as regular listeners know, is to offer advice and insights to help people avoid the mistakes of others, to learn best practices, the how-tos, the what-tos, the what-not-tos, and certainly to be challenged and inspired by the successes of others as well. Here's the thing. Every successful person that I've ever had a chance to talk to has had some form of failure in their lives and careers. So listen, while we all have to get our knees skinned once in a while, I'm driven to help those scrapes, or keep those scrapes rather, from needing major surgery. Let's endeavor to learn from history so we don't repeat it. So before I introduce my guest today, I want to introduce our new format. I'm really excited that with the help of W4CY Radio, Talk4 Media, and Dean Piper, that from today forward we'll be live streaming. You can see my smiling face instead of just hearing my voice, and we'll see if that's a good thing as we move on. It's going to be a lot of fun for me, and I hope a lot of fun for all of you. And our new name moving forward will be Winning Business TV. That's kind of cool. So I hope you all come along for the ride. So today, my guest is Donna Rustigian Mac, founder and president of iVoice Communications. Here's your bio. Donna is the founder and president of iVoice Communication, a company dedicated to creating healthy human business connections through high-level effective communication. She trains current and emerging leaders to create new, healthier communication practices so they can become more influential and speak with more confidence. She's an executive communication coach, workforce trainer, and motivational speaker with a focus on complex presentations and crucial conversations. In addition to 4 decades in the communication industry, corporate media, and digital media, Donna is a certified mindfulness teacher with a practice in behavioral change with the Mindfulness Center at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. Her undergraduate degree is in liberal arts and humanities. She's also studied organizational and social psychology at Lesley University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with, interesting enough, Tara and Daniel Goleman, authors that I like, authors of Emotional Alchemy and Emotional Intelligence. And from 2003 to 2009, she partnered with Clear Channel Communications as host of Virtual Women Radio, profiling more than 100 famous and accomplished females. I'm interested in hearing a little bit of that. Donna is the author of Guide to a Richer Life, Know Your Worth, Find Your Voice and Speak, the Appreciation Yay Me Journal, and she's the creator of the 6 Pillars of Mindful Communication. We're going to talk about that. Clients include individual professionals and companies large and small. Corporate clients have included Merrill Lynch, CVS Health, Blue Cross Blue Shield, the Massachusetts Bankers Association, and many others. In addition to her work, Donna is an avid runner, skier, gardener, and the mother of 2 strong and successful millennials, an introvert and an extrovert, that's interesting, who have the great ability to communicate. She resides in Mansfield, Massachusetts. Donna, welcome to Winning Business Radio, Winning Business TV.
On your debut television.
Yes.
This is terrific. Thank you so much, Kevin, for having me. I really appreciate it.
And we'll always remember this as the first time here, right?
You bet.
I know I will, for sure. So first, I just want to know about your introvert and your extrovert.
Of all the things I've done in my world, my children, they are the hardest job ever, as we know, and the most rewarding, that's for sure. And it's so funny because the universe gave me, first of all, my introvert. Yep. She was painfully shy. I remember her being about 12 years old and literally holding on to me. And she struggled giving eye contact to adults. And then the universe also gave me my extrovert. My mom used to call her the bull in the china shop. I mean, she seemed to have no fear and no filter. I think that's what we call no filter in the world of communication.
I think you're right.
Yeah. But you know what, Kevin? Over the years, they have learned two things. Number one, to be themselves, right? To be authentically themselves. And they've also learned to play the game. Because in order to really succeed in life, you need to be authentically yourself. And of course, you also learn to play the game. Because after you take time to figure out who you are as a communicator, what works, and where you might be vulnerable, then you realize at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about them.
So
It's
true.
about the other people you're speaking with and the other people you're connecting with.
Now you're preaching to the choir, because we say that to our clients
You
all
bet.
the time. It's not about you. It's all about your prospect or your client. Very good. What were you? Okay, so you grew up in Rhode Island. I know that, but tell us about the town and a bit about what it was like to grow up in that particular town.
Oh, okay. I
Just a
grew
little
up,
flavor, a little
well,
background.
very Rhode Island. And
Yeah.
it's so funny. I grew up right on the Rhode Island, Massachusetts border.
Mhm.
And when we would hang out with the people in Mass, which was Attleboro,
Okay.
Attleboro, North
Sure.
Attleboro area, they all had Boston accents. We had Providence accents.
And there is a
So
difference.
they were more Whitey Bulger, right?
Yeah.
And we were more Patriarcha.
That's funny
Right?
for those
That's
that don't
just
know.
how we sounded.
Look those names up if you don't know. That's funny.
Right. I mean, that was our accent. And I
Yeah.
was very, very fortunate because I grew up in a wonderful family,
Mhm.
in a nice little neighborhood. Everybody lived on about a quarter of an acre, but it was a
Mhm.
wonderful, wonderful place to grow up. We had a lot of friends. We used to play baseball in the front yard, and in my backyard we had one swing. I mean, when you think how happy, how much time we had around that swing, getting exercises and just hanging out with kids and chatting, right? Chatting and laughing and talking. It really was terrific. And but eventually, slowly but surely, once I got into the broadcasting industry, I was very fortunate to actually start not in Rhode Island, in Connecticut,
Mhm.
because in Connecticut I learned how to lose much of that Rhode Island accent, so I
Okay.
could speak in a way where I was understandable to people all over the place.
It's funny. I've said that for many years, and I think there's a correlation there. Both of my parents are from Connecticut. My dad he was
Oh,
born in Farmington, grew up in Plainville. My mother grew up in Cheshire. And so I was born in Boston, have always lived in Massachusetts. I don't have a Boston accent. And I think, as you said, it's because both of my parents were from Connecticut, which is kind
right.
of that, no accent, although there are a few words here and there.
Yeah, you would think that people from Connecticut would have a
Yeah.
very strange accent because it's sandwiched right between
New
Boston
York,
and New York.
right.
But for some strange reason, I think it was the insurance industry, right?
All
Very
those
conservative.
transplants.
Yeah, they learned how to speak. I call it generically.
Yeah.
So no matter
Yeah.
where you go in the world, you don't sound like you have an accent. Yeah.
Very good. I like it. I think you're right. So, what were some of your early interests? I mean, let me pause. Let me tell you why I asked that question. You're very natural in front of the camera. You were in media. We're going to get to that shortly, but I don't know if the early interest flavored that or what you do today more. So I'm curious what you
Mhm.
were interested in when you were a kid.
Couple of things.
Hmm.
First and foremost, I always loved people.
Hmm.
And I was always very interested in the psyches of people and really understanding people. I remember being like 16, 17 years old, saying to a friend of mine, "Do you ever think about what other people think?" And she looked at me like I had three heads, right? But these are just some of the things that always interested
Hmm.
me. I mean, in addition to that, I grew up in a time before Title IX.
Hmm.
And so I was strong, but I really was never encouraged to be an athlete.
Hmm.
And as I got older, I stayed small. I'm only a 5 foot tall, brown haired, brown eyed woman. So I unfortunately wasn't involved in sports a lot. I really wish, looking back, I had been more involved in sports. But I was a gymnast for a time, which
Hmm.
was really great because you can be small, right? Small and strong.
Right.
And of course, I was also part of the drama club, especially in
Oh,
my first
very
couple
cool.
of years in high school. Yeah, always involved in drama and theater, and got my toes wet there.
So natural for you to be in front of people.
Yeah, but you know what? I always had a bit of fear of speaking, as I believe most people do.
Hmm.
And but I learned to overcome. I learned slowly but surely again how to play the game and how to ground myself in a way. So I think the most important thing I learned was to speak with, even if the audience, you had 100 people in the audience, or goodness, in this day and age, 1,000 people in the audience, you could be talking to a worldwide audience in this day and age. You do your best, Kevin, and you know this, to just speak to one person.
Right.
You speak
Right.
in first person. And I remember trying out for cheerleading, I think in the 8th or the 9th grade, and somebody giving me a great piece of advice and saying, okay, the judges are out there and everybody is looking at you. Look right above them. Look right above. So don't really look at their eyes, because otherwise it'll freak you
It's
out.
intimidating, right?
Look right above them, and just, do your thing as though you're communicating to just one person.
I've heard that too. That's
Good piece of advice.
So you went to broadcasting school early on.
Yes.
What drew you that direction? And then I'd like to talk about your time in front of a camera or in front of a microphone.
Hmm. Well, it was interesting because I right out of high school, I told my dad, I said, I'm really interested in psychology and sociology and people. And he looked at me again like I had 3 heads. It was very, very old fashioned, very traditional. He really tried to point me in the direction of traditional occupations: nurse, secretary, teacher, none of which really excited me at all.
Yeah.
So, he was my dad and I listened. So I went to school for a year and I took liberal arts.
Sure.
And I decided actually to leave school early. And I went to broadcasting school after just a year of college. I didn't actually get my degree until later in life.
Okay.
And back then it really was okay because, back then actually only about 12% of females were getting college degrees.
That's still shocking. We're
Isn't
probably
that
about the same
amazing?
age, but that's shocking.
Right. But those were the numbers then. So it was fine back then to just have a year of college under my belt, to
Right.
go to broadcasting school. I think the numbers for men were less than 20%. So it was about 12% for women, about 20, maybe 25% for guys. And I went to broadcasting school because I was itchy. I didn't feel as though I was thriving in school at that particular time, and I wanted to do something. And broadcasting lit me up. I thought it would be a really interesting and non-traditional career.
Sure.
You also have to remember, I grew up in the 70s and early 80s, and I was looking for something more non-traditional to do, as opposed to the teacher, the nurse, and the secretary.
Right.
So that's really what drew me in originally.
So talk about your career path up to being on the air. So broadcast school, that had to be pretty cool. We'll talk about that another time. But
Yes.
How did you get your first job in media? Talk about that.
Well, I really did need school. So in broadcasting school, I was very fortunate because one of my instructors happened to be the program director of a radio station in Connecticut.
Cool.
And he was looking for his first female. You have to remember there were hardly any women in the broadcasting industry at that particular time. So he was looking to fill, I believe they called it EOE, right? Equal Opportunity Employment.
Okay.
They were looking, you recall,
yes,
for a female to work at his radio station, middle of the night, midnight to 6 days a week, for $150. And Kevin, that was more money than I had ever made in my life. And so he saw talent, he saw raw talent in school. And just like communication, broadcasting at that time was experiential. So you could do so much in school, but really I was so fortunate because I was able to learn on the job, middle of the night, very limited audience. And I learned on the job training. They don't even have, when I think of kids in this day and age getting out of school, they don't even have positions like that anymore. They very infrequently have overnight positions. They don't have weekend positions because so much of what you hear on the air now is all recorded.
Right. Or
Right?
syndicated.
It's syndicated. voice tracked.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I was so fortunate. So I had him, and he was a tough boss, I'll tell you. Oof.
Yeah.
But I learned more from
So you
my
got
first
guests
boss.
to be on the air between midnight and 6 a.m.?
Yes, I got hired to do a full-time job,
Wow.
to be a full-time on-air person. And I feel as though I need to stop here and ask you if I can share with you what happened to me the first night I was on the air, which is a heck of a story.
Yeah, that's a great segue to our first break. We'll take our first
Okay.
break right here, and we'll go to commercial. In fact, we're going to introduce our newest sponsor, Best Gen Wealth Management.
Welcome.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Hey everyone, I'm Jimmy Star, the king of cool and your host of the Jimmy Star Show, the entertainment radio show for all you cool and unique people looking to get a behind-the-scenes peek at what's going on in the entertainment industry. Listen in as me and my cool crowd of co-hosts bring you celebrity guests, new music, and the good times in fashion, entertainment, and pop culture. Right, everybody? Right! Tune in live Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on W4CY.com.
Hey, this is Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and you're listening to W4CY Radio.
Hey, this is Rebel Medler. Join me for In Your Face on W4CY.com, Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Best Gen Wealth Management is a second-generation, family-owned financial planning and wealth advisory firm. In addition to coordinating complex business and personal planning needs, our firm takes a sincere interest in your well-being and personal values. Find us at bestgenwm.com. That's bestgenwm.com, where we consider all our clients an extension of our family. Advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, a registered investment advisor.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
We're back with Donna Mac, founder and president of iVoice Communication. All right, now go for your story. I'm looking forward to this one.
Okay, so the year was 1979. Am I dating myself? Yes, but this is what happened. So again, I mentioned the fact that my first boss was an instructor in my original broadcasting school, looking for a female to work overnights. And I was a little nervous, rightly so. And he said, Donna, don't worry about it. The entire first week, you go in and Steve is going to be with you all night. Steve is going to teach you the board. He's going to teach you where the music is, where the commercials are, where the newsroom is. And he's going to just show you all the bells and whistles of what you need to do and what you need to know. All you have to do is go on the air twice an hour and do the weather all week. So I said, I think I can handle it.
That's a pretty light lift, yeah.
Right. So, first hour, I think I had to do the weather at 20 past the hour and 10 of the hour every 30 minutes.
Okay.
So 20 past 12, did the weather. No problem. About 12:50, turned the microphone on again, did the weather, no problem. Approximately 1:20, did the weather, no problem. And then a little after 1:30, all of a sudden in the other room, I hear ding, 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 ding. And it was pretty loud. So I said, Steve, what was that? He said, oh, sounds like a bulletin. So he said, come, join me. So I followed him into the newsroom. And back then it was the Associated Press wire, right? It was churning out the news.
This was a machine, like a
Right. Churning out the news that was happening not only locally, but also regionally, nationally, and internationally. Really long story short, What had happened? My first night on the radio was the same night, or I guess it was day back over there in Iran.
I knew you were going to go there. Yep. When you said 79, yeah.
When the hostages were taken in Iran. So a couple of hours later, my boss, who was my program director, who was also the morning guy, wakes up at 3, maybe 3:30 in the morning. And what does a program director do? He tunes in to his new host, and he also tunes in to the competition. And he hears that the competition is getting this bulletin up and out on the air. So what does he do? He calls us and he says, "Listen, Steve, I've heard her before. She can do this." So I took that Associated Press wire, and the first thing you have to do is you have to edit it, right? You have to pre-read it live and out loud. It's like doing a live commercial. If somebody gives you a piece of paper to read a live commercial out on the air, you always try to read it, pre-read it before you read it live, so you can work out all the tongue twisters first. And I did. So by 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, I was doing live news, a live bulletin about the hostages and the hostage situation that had happened in Iran back on November 4th, 1979.
That's crazy. I remember that. I don't remember
this. Fun.
Not listening to you, but I remember, exactly. That was a big deal.
Oh, it was a huge deal.
Yeah.
It was a huge, huge deal. So it was just so very cool to be part of history.
You did a lot of different things, and you've. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but there are a couple of really interesting names of people that you've interviewed, women in particular that you've interviewed. You want to share a couple?
Certainly. It's interesting because I was in the broadcasting industry for, dare I say, more than a couple of decades, right? But towards the end, I actually decided to go from full-time radio into part-time radio while I started my business.
Right.
But while I was doing part-time radio, I was blessed because I was asked to be the host and the producer of a show called Vital Women. And over 5.5 years, I was able to interview more than 100 famous and accomplished women, such as Gloria Steinem.
Wow.
She was my first biggie. Yeah. Jane Pauley, Sarah McLachlan. And plus, local women, the head of the hospital and the head of the University of Massachusetts. They had started a law school out in the Dartmouth area. And it was just so cool to bond with these women and rub elbows with these ladies. And I tell people, I didn't make a lot of money doing that work. However, it was like 5 years of personal and professional development.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, I was I don't want to say just an announcer, because I also did news and I was an editor and I was a co-host. But it was so cool to actually have people on the air live with you and to have them be famous and accomplished. And it helped me sharpen my game.
So my next question, that's to that point, right? What was behind your decision to start the first company? You called it DMACC Voice Communications at that time, right?
It was actually called DMACC Voice Productions.
What
I did, that the name evolved, as and anybody who's been a business owner realizes that it's all about evolution. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew there was something more after radio, but I wasn't quite sure how to put it all together. So I just, put one foot ahead of the next. And it happened at a time my kids were little, right? So I'm working in radio part-time. And I decided to start with producing voiceovers. Right? So I created a small voiceover studio. And how do you do that? You take a computer and you get a wonderful microphone, and then you buy an interface piece which goes between the computer and the microphone. And I started marketing myself as a voiceover artist. And I did very well when I started. And then, after I started recording my voice, other people came to me asking me if I could record their voices. And I tell people, I think I was creating podcasts before the word podcast was even created. Yeah. And it was through that time, it was really interesting. It was through that time that many of my clients and many of my customers started inviting me into their companies, first helping them with presentation skills training, because as we know in companies, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, pause there. What was the first engagement, and how did it happen?
Oh.
What was the need?
Oh, I'm trying to. It was a woman who worked for corporate CVS. She was a woman of color. She was awesome. She had a great position, and she had an opportunity to address a really large audience. And she was nervous, and rightly so. I think she had a 200-person audience, and it was something she had never done before. So I helped her not only craft what it was that she wanted to say, because there's the template to follow, right? Sure. But I helped her really know her worth, right? And so she could empower herself and be calm, confident, comfortable in her own skin. Wow. And so at the end of the day, she could create those healthy human connections, make it about the audience, but still parlay her information. And I was very lucky because first it was her, and then from there, she introduced me to other people on her team and other people in her company.
Well, that was one of my questions too, but I'll get to that in a second. What were your toughest challenges to getting that business going?
Well, you are the sales guy, Kevin. So, it's about selling yourself. So I knew I was very good at who I was and what I did. And I wasn't so good at selling myself and marketing myself.
Pretty common.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, understand your strengths and understand your vulnerabilities. So I had to get more comfortable in that space. And I'm so fortunate because I've met people like you along the way who have given me tidbits along the way. And plus, I believe, and tell me if you agree, perhaps I'm wrong, I believe sales has evolved as well.
Absolutely has.
Right. So it's no longer, I think I used to see sales. I used to envision sales like, I don't want to be the guy selling the vacuum cleaner, knocking on the door saying, here I am. Can I throw some dirt on your carpet? No, it's all about just being yourself and being, again, calm, confident, comfortable in your own skin, and really believing not only in who you are and what you do, but believing that you can help people. So, and it's being more of a listener and asking the right questions as opposed to selling yourself.
Right. So that's the biggest differentiator from, 20, 30 years ago. It used to be, we always say pitches are for soccer and baseball. Right?
Yes.
Listening is a great phrase. Treat listening as a martial art. Right. So you got it.
I like that.
You got it.
I know we're going to talk a little later on about the 6 pillars of mindful communication. And pillar number 5 is called serve as you speak. Right?
Nice.
When you speak, you also do your best to serve. And when you are in service mode, I believe your listener or the people you're trying to create the connection with, they feel it. At the end of the day, of course, I want to sell myself, and I do want. Sure. I would love to do business with you if it's right. So if you move forth in service mode, and again, people will feel that, and they're much more apt to be able to trust you because you're not just trying to sell whatever you have. You do indeed want to help them.
Star of the day. That's you're right. You're spot on. You're spot on.
That makes me feel good. I'm glad I asked, and I'm glad I asked that I'm on the right page.
Absolutely. So the company, as you said, evolved over the years. You've done some different things, all in the guise of, or all under that same umbrella, right?
Yes.
But you were DMACC Voice Productions, Communications.
DMACC, right.
And then today you're iVoice Communication. What's different now?
What's different now is that the business has evolved to a point where the main focus is on healthy human connections. People really doing their best to do the work, to figure out who they are as communicators, and to come from a place and a space where they're hearing their own iVoice or their own inspiring voice. and they're able to create those healthy human connections. And I really don't do very much voiceover work anymore. From time to time, people will call me and ask me to lend my voice on a project. And people don't come into my studio any longer, and I no longer create podcasts. I am a coach. I'm an executive communication coach, and I am a workforce trainer primarily. So that is the focus. And so iVoice Communication is a company dedicated to creating those healthy human connections through high-level effective communication. And those healthy human connections start with healthy humans.
All right, give your website really quick, then we're going to go to our second break.
Okay, the letter I, voicecommunication.com. So again, that's iVoiceCommunication, no S at the end, .com.
Very good. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes after these commercials.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show? Well, W4CY Radio makes dreams come true. You can be a radio personality on the #1 ranked internet radio station in West Palm Beach, Florida. We can be heard in 105 countries and all U.S. states. Promote your business, earn up to $10,000 per month and more. It's all up to you. Have fun and be heard. Call 561-506-4031. That's 561-506-4031. Start your radio show now.
This is Rebel Medler. Join me for In Your Face on W4CY.com, Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Bestgen Wealth Management is a second-generation, family-owned financial planning and wealth advisory firm. In addition to coordinating complex business and personal planning needs, our firm takes a sincere interest in your well-being and personal values. Find us at bestgenwm.com. That's bestgenwm.com, where we consider all our clients an extension of our family. Advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, a registered investment advisor.
Hey, this is Johnny Three Tears from Hollywood Undead, and you're listening to W4CY Radio.
I do whatever it takes to make it break through. Anything I'm face to face with, it's true.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
Welcome back, and Donna Mac is here, president and founder of, I know it, but I had to look anyway, iVoice Communication, no S.
Well, it is much easier when you don't have a camera. Yeah, I hear this is your first live television show, Kevin.
It is.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You have made the move. There are a lot of people who have been in broadcasting for a long time who have done radio for years and years and never made that move from radio to TV.
It's funny you said that, because with just radio, I mean, I can have stuff all around me. I can lean back. I can sniffle.
You know, I'm telling people, I work with a lot of people.
I can still have iced coffee on air, though, right?
Absolutely. There are a lot of people all of a sudden who have opportunities to do Zoom presentations and, you know, just connecting with people on Zoom. And I think it's actually easier on Zoom than it is doing it live, because you can have pieces of paper, right? You can have little sticky notes here and there and refer to your notes along the way, as opposed to, you know, being at a conference and just getting up and speaking with X amount of people. And you might be able to have a small note in your hand, but when you're doing a Zoom presentation or doing a Zoom connection, it's much easier.
So you don't allow people doing a stand-up to have index cards?
Oh, I do.
Oh, you do?
I actually do.
I was kidding.
You know, yeah. Why? What do you think? What do you think? That's a no-no?
I've done it plenty of times. So I guess not. You know, I guess it's okay.
It is, absolutely.
Mm.
I mean, there's a time and place for everything.
Sure.
Of course, there are those speakers who are making 75,000 for the 45 minutes.
Yeah.
At that particular point, no index cards. But for the average person who is indeed trying to connect with an audience at a conference, or all of a sudden you have an opportunity, if you're in Boston and you have an opportunity to speak with somebody in LA or address a specific audience, you can absolutely refer to your notes, but learn how to refer to your notes because there is an art.
Well, tell us about that.
Well, you don't want to look down at your notes and all of a sudden I'm saying, oh, and here are some examples of blah, blah, nobody can see me. But you can say, all right, and a few examples of old communication habits are, for example, perfectionism. Perfectionism is blah, 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 right?
Yeah,
and then you can refer back down. Oh, and there's also the old habit of you can't stop talking. That is also a communication habit. Right? So you can refer to your notes and then turn and look at the camera. And then refer. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was going to say similar to not reading your slides, your PowerPoint slides, referring to them. They're for the audience. They're not for you to read.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'd say the majority of people, the majority of presentations, and tell me if you agree, that we go to, there's way too much on the slides. There's way too much on the slides. And that's what the majority of people do is they read the slides. Well, why do we need the person if all the information is on the slides?
Right. Print it out and save me the trouble.
Remember you and I talked in the beginning of this conversation, Kevin, about the fact that it's not about you. It's about the audience, right? It's about the listener. The average listener can process so many words per minute. Right? So the average brain can process approximately 600 words per minute. The average person can speak at a rate of approximately 200 words per minute. Okay, so the brain can process 600. You can only speak 200. So there's a lot of space for the brain to process all these other things. So think about it. The average person, they're trying to pay attention to what you are saying. So if you have this super busy slide, your goal is to not confuse them.
Yeah.
Your goal is to make things as easy as possible for the listener to understand and, more importantly, to retain.
That's excellent. What has been maybe one or two of your favorite moments in coaching and enriching people's ability to speak so far? I'll put you on the spot somewhat.
I love it all. I really do. I am so blessed to be where I am.
Your passion's very evident. So I've said that to you before.
Thank you. When you think of getting out of broadcasting and not knowing where you're going, and you start with a little voiceover studio and then fast forward, I mean, it's taken me a while. It's been an evolutionary process. And the fact that I have an opportunity to help individuals and companies create those healthy human connections, do presentations, have those hard conversations. I was working with a woman at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. And I did some group training with her company. And then I was lucky enough to be able to coach her one-on-one because I do a lot of individualized one-on-one coaching. This woman was in her, I would say, early to mid 40s. And awesome woman, very smart in the sciences. And she struggled communicating because a lot of people in the sciences, in technology, in financial services, think about it, very analytically oriented, but speaking and communicating just doesn't come as easily and naturally to many of those people who are more analytically oriented. So in addition to her challenges with speaking and communicating, she was also unbelievably kind. She was just a really wonderful person.
Nice.
And I remember her boss, when her boss hired me, telling me about her and saying, everybody likes her. Like she has a lot of friends in this company. But I quickly learned that she was what we call in the world of communication, a people pleaser.
Okay.
Trying to keep everybody happy. And what happens now? You're a dad, right, Kevin? What happens when you try to keep all the kids and the wife and what happens when you try to keep everybody happy?
The word that comes to mind is chaos.
There's no such thing.
Right.
There's no such thing. And you just exude so much energy, really. So much of your energy is going elsewhere. And what happens very often with people pleasers is you delegate your duties and then they drop the ball on you, right? Oh, she's nice. I'll do everybody else's job. But you know what? If I don't do it for her, that's okay. She's nice. She'll forgive me. In the meantime, she's saying, well, I don't want to be a micromanager, so I'll just do it myself. And she was just exhausted.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, I had to teach this woman how to become more authoritative. And I quickly taught her that, you know what? You can be authoritative and really, truly know who you are as a leader, because she had many people she was overseeing. And you have to be able to ask for what you want, what you need. You need to be able to delegate and be firm. And ask, and then stand in your powerful silence. I mean, these are all little tricks of the trade. And it took her a while. But I'm so proud of her now, because she has come to the realization that she can be authoritative, because some of this, Kevin, is mindset and some of it is skill set. And at the end of the day, communication is experiential. Like I can help you with the mindset. I can help you with the skill set. Now take it on the road.
You got to do it.
Practice it.
Right.
You know that, being a trainer yourself. And I'm happy to report back that it has taken her some time. But she has some wonderful stories about how she has delegated, and they take her seriously now. And I tell you this story because I'm not only so proud of her at work in a professional setting, but she also told me how valuable these skills are in her raising her 15-year-old daughter.
Excellent. Love
because
it.
Think about it. A people pleaser, a very kind person, very often can be taken advantage of. So I love helping people step into their power, empowering people through high-level effective communication.
I love it. Hey, talk about your book for a second. Guide to a Richer Life, Know Your Worth, Find Your Voice, and Speak. By the way, available on Amazon.
Yeah, thank you very much for asking. Originally I was going to call it Find Your Voice and Speak. And I started writing and I said, it is so much easier to find your voice and speak if you really wholeheartedly know your worth first.
I like it.
So it's taking time to understand who you are as a communicator, your strengths, your vulnerabilities, and to be fine with your vulnerabilities. So often people, women and men, struggle with their vulnerabilities. Guess what? Everybody has vulnerabilities. So know them, own them, and then acquire the skills, acquire the mindset, acquire the actual, classic, timeless communication skills of how to organize and create a presentation and deliver a presentation, and how to organize your speech too, so you can make it easy for the listener. So my book is a workbook, and it's not a big academic journal. At the end of the day, I want to make life easy for people.
Who should read it?
Everybody should read it. Everybody should read it, because you know what? There's something for everyone. There's a section on listening. Who I can become a better listener. I think we all, especially in the 2020s and beyond, can become a better listener. And it helps you gauge where you are now, because again, we all have strengths and vulnerabilities. So where are you now? Right? Where are your communication skills now? And the book asks you, well, now that you know these skills, where are you 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now? Considering effective communication is experiential, take it on the road, practice it, and then go back to the book and commend yourself for a job well done after you've done the work.
Oh, I like that too. I love that. Tell us about the appreciation #YayMe journal. Love that.
A lot of people have negative think. That's where my mindfulness practice comes in, Kevin.
Actually, in this answer, if you don't mind me interrupting, I wanted you to tell what tell us what mindfulness means. So as part of that answer, if you could.
Mindfulness, simplest definition, according to Dr. John Kabat-Zinn. A lot of people in the mindfulness world know Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, who oversees the University of Massachusetts Medical School. His definition is mindfulness is awareness. It's awareness of what you're doing in the present moment, right here, right now. And mindfulness at the end of the day is the opposite of distraction. So what's happening right here, right now? And it's really being well aware of what's happening in your mind. Are you thinking negatively about yourself? Are you thinking negatively about other people? And might thinking negatively about yourself, fear of speaking up. So much of the world has fear of speaking. Be aware of it. And once you're aware of it, then you're able to work it and acquire the skills necessary so you can keep fear at bay, become more present with your listeners, and really create those healthy human connections. And on the other side of the coin, I think a lot of people's minds divert to the negative. It's so easy.
Yes.
I've learned through mindfulness, that's where our minds go. It's something called the default mode network. Our minds very often divert to the negative. And it's so easy to see who people aren't as opposed to who people are. So knowing now that that's how our minds work, it's our job as mindful, effective communicators to just take a breath, okay? To realize that our brains so often go from awareness into some kind of negative place and space. But what I do is I help people, again, to take a breath and to realize that in just that moment, in that few extra seconds, to get into a place and space of curiosity so you can make a better choice, so you can make a healthier choice, so you are indeed eventually able to become more present with your people.
That's excellent.
Thank you.
So much of what you talk about really aligns with what we do. We, as you know, the Sandler methodology, we teach people to be good communicators. I mean, yes, healthy, strong salespeople, strong sales leaders, but so much of it has to do with mindset, confidence, asking questions, being a good listener. I just love hearing what you're saying. All right, we are pressed for time, a few more minutes, but explain the 6 pillars of mindful communication. I'm dying to hear this.
How many minutes do we have?
3.
It's a support system.
Yeah.
The 6 pillars of mindful communication are a support system, and they're really guidelines. They support and they guide you, whether you're ready to create a presentation, create and deliver a presentation, or whether you're ready to just have one of those hard, really vulnerable conversations that so many people shy away from. Pillar number 1 is know and own and be who you are. That's the authentic self. And then pillar number 2, we go right to the audience. At the end of the day, it's all about attuning yourself to them.
Well, good.
Now that you know about you and you know about people, now attune to your audience. Pillar number 3 is master your content, right? As best as you can. Know your stuff.
Yeah.
Pillar number 4 is anticipate questions and reactions. So you're ready when the Q&A comes. And not only be ready for their questions and reactions, how are you going to feel when you broach challenging subjects? So be ready for your reactions. Pillar number 5, as I mentioned a little while ago, is serve when you speak, right? Make it more about them and less about you. And pillar number 6 is detach from the outcome. And if you don't get get the sale, right?
Yeah.
If you don't get the sale at the end of the day, you're not going to be crushed. Maybe it's just not the right time. Maybe you're missing something. And at the end of the day, it's all about trust. And Kevin, sales guy, right? Handler person. At the end, it's all about knowing, liking, and creating those trusted relationships. And I'd like to kind of leave you with this one. If you have a relationship in your world, especially your working world right now, that is somehow splintered or just not right, ask yourself the question, where's the trust? And remember, you can't change them.
Yes.
All you can do is change yourself. And I really help people step into their personal power and learn to trust themselves. That's where it has to start, so they can eventually build those strong, trusted relationships with other people.
That's awesome. She's Donna Mac. The company is iVoice Communication. The website is the letter I, voicecommunication.com. Thank you so much for being here. I enjoyed it.
My absolute pleasure, Kevin. It has been absolutely wonderful to be with you today.
And for the first on TV.
No kidding. This is
with
a big day.
I love it.
Congratulations again.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for I was going to say listening. It's in the script, for listening and watching. This is a show about business and business challenges. If you've got concerns about the growth of your company, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn. You can find me at Winning Business Radio. You can send me a note, kevin@winningbusinessradio.com. Our company is Winning Incorporated. As you heard, we're part of Sandler Training. We develop sales teams into high achievers and sales leaders into true coaches and mentors. Listen, we're not right for everybody, but maybe we should have a conversation. Thank you, as always, to engineer behind the scenes, the talented and skillful Rebel Medler. Tune in again next Monday, August 9th at 4 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do it all over again. Thank you, as always. This is Kevin Hallinan.
You've been listening to Winning Business Radio with your host, Kevin Hallinan. If you missed any part of this episode, the podcast is available on Talk4 Podcasting and iHeartRadio. For more information and questions, go to winningbusinessradio.com or check us out on social media. Tune in again next week and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to listen live to Winning Business Radio on W4CY Radio, W4CY.com. Until then, let's succeed where others have failed and win in business with Kevin Hallinan and Winning Business Radio.